All right, so now that you're learning from home, you've probably been inundated with lots of these, and you've probably got a whole heap of these along to go with it. So, what do we do about all that? Let's put those aside for a moment. I'm just going to talk about 3 things that are going to help you learn from home. I'm going to talk about some specific maths things as well, but hopefully there's something you can take away for all your subjects too. Now, I used the 3 R's, which is arithmetic, reading, and writing. I've got a version of that for when we're learning at home. It's going to be routine, resources, and relearning. Let me explain them. Now, every school is doing things differently in terms of their routine. Some of them are doing live lessons with things like Zoom or Microsoft Teams as they're looking at trying to maintain some sense of normality, like they're logging into their classes at prescribed times. Others are doing things differently. They'll post up all the work at the beginning of the week, and they'll leave students their choice of how they're going to engage in their work throughout the day. I'm going to suggest either way that your school is doing it, that the routine here is going to be helpful, right? And although you don't have your usual timetable, I want to encourage you to have some kind of structure to your day. What that helps you do is spread your energy across all your different subjects, not just focusing on a single one. There may be situations where that's helpful. You want to be a bit flexible with that as well. Maybe you're getting in the groove with a particular essay, or you're starting to understand a concept in mathematics and you want to practice that a bit more. That's something where you have to be a bit flexible as well, depending on your mood and how you're feeling. Something that should be incorporated in that as well is rest. Okay, rest is really important. Whether it's rest between different classes or different pieces of work that you're doing, or rest at the end of the day as well, all of that is very important. Now, I know there have been students who are capable of working from 8 AM to 7 PM, but the issue is that's not sustainable, and I can tell you that from experience, and I'm guilty of that as well. So it's really important that you do get rest, because sometimes it's better just to step away from your work and your study and look after your well-being as well. All right, resources. Let's talk textbooks. Now, in theory, a student could pick up a textbook, read through it, learn the skill, and do all that by themselves. Why is that? Well, because generally how maths textbooks are laid out, there's some theory that you need to read through that gives you a bit of a background. There are some examples which reflect that skill, and then that's a rinse and repeat. There's another theory, then there's another piece of an example, then there's some exercises for you to practice. If you're one of the students that can do that, awesome. I wasn't one of them in high school though. Let's talk a bit about why. One reason I found learning from textbooks hard was because if I read something, I can see there's some key points here, but if I didn't quite understand it, it wasn't dynamic, right? There's no conversation that I can have with this textbook that's going to help me clarify the situation. I could go and look at another textbook and another textbook until I've exhausted through all of them. If it's still not making sense, then I'm in a bit of trouble. That's why it's great to have a human element and be able to talk to someone about your understandings and misconceptions, right? That's the first reason. Secondly, unlike a narrative, a textbook isn't necessarily designed to inspire a student, right? That's the role of a teacher. The teacher picks up a textbook as a resource, as a teaching resource for their students, and extract something out of it that can be amazing and relevant to their students. That's why a teacher element is so important when we're looking at delivery of learning. What can we do about that? Well, that's where videos come in. Videos are an attempt to capture that moment in the classroom where we might be trying to do exactly that. There's a whole heap of places where people are uploading videos now. There's an awesome website called MathsLinks, which has collected a lot of these different resources here. So I'm going to put that link in the description below. There's videos from teachers all over that have started putting these up, and MathsLinks has collected them all in one nice place for you to watch. Again, it's not actually a perfect solution because it's not as dynamic as it could be. It's not an ongoing conversation that you're having. So that's where live conferences or your peers are going to be a great help for that if you can have some kind of communication with them. If you're looking for a bit more motivation though, there's a few different channels which may help you out. Numberphile is a great one that I love watching. There's a lot of interesting mathematical things that can get you excited and passionate about learning mathematics. And my last tip is relearning. There's a lot of different things to talk about when you're looking at learning a concept by yourself. But one thing that I've found with learning mathematics is that the learning that you take is a progression. When I read through this, as a teacher, I don't always understand things the first pass through. What I've found is, although as a student I couldn't learn things straight from a textbook, as a teacher there are times when I have to do that now, right? If I'm learning something in Extension 2 for the first time, I look at something and I've never seen this before, how do I learn it by myself? Well, apart from asking other people, which is also a great idea, if I'm trying to learn something by myself, what I'll do is I'll have a preliminary pass through of what's going on, understand some key ideas and read through the examples. Another reason why I think this is possible is because at a lot of levels, mathematics has a very similar structure across the board. They'll introduce a concept and a skill and a formula. And generally the first couple of examples are going to be using that formula in that same situation. I'll give you a lot of those to practice to develop your fluency. And then what they'll start doing is they'll start reversing things. Maybe they'll give you different numbers that you have to use, or maybe they'll give you the answer and you have to show how you got your solution, right? So that's how they'll start mixing things up. And the highest level of that is probably the word problems. And these are going to be a lot trickier because what you have to do is you have to analyze the situation and extract the information there, right? So it's not always easier, but if you can recognize that mathematics follows this same kind of structure throughout the board, that's something that's going to be helpful for you as you're going through these. And although I don't entirely understand something, that's okay. Because for example, when you were a baby, you would see all these people walking around and they would be able to walk like it was second nature. And you would try and mimic that to an extent, but you just couldn't. Maybe you started a little bit, maybe you could crawl a little bit, and then you suddenly started to get on your feet, but then you couldn't go very far, right? And over time, you start to build this progression where you go from not being able to walk at all to walking like it's second nature. And that's the same thing with mathematics, right? When you start learning something, maybe you can only look at this and understand 1 or 2 examples. And those are the examples that you try. You don't really understand the whole concept and where it fits into this big picture of mathematics, but that's okay, right? So you start practicing, you develop this fluency for this skill that you're looking at. And then once you've done that, then you can start to look at, okay, how does this actually work? Why does this actually work? A great channel for that, 3 Blue 1 Brown, he goes into a lot of depth into why these concepts work with a great visual way of representing those. So just to clarify, I'm not saying don't be curious or seek, but sometimes you have to be okay with not understanding everything completely in that single moment. Don't feel like not understanding everything completely should halt your learning as you're going through these journeys. Another really easy but effective thing to do when you're trying to learn something by yourself is just write down some questions, right? What I tend to do is I have an FAQ list, so like a frequently asked questions list ready to go whenever I get stuck with something. So the moment I get stuck, I'm gonna write it down so I don't forget. Or if I'm marking things and notice I get something wrong, if I can work out why I got that wrong, I'm gonna put that down as well, right? That could be like a common mistakes list. But just the simple act of writing this all down and having a list there ready to go means that if you do get an opportunity to chat with your teachers or your peers about a particular concept, you're gonna have this whole list of questions here that you can ask rather than just feeling overwhelmed and confused. So those are my 3 R's for learning at home: your routine, your resources, and your relearning strategies. Now, I just want to say that ultimately, it's not going to be the same as learning in a classroom. I'm finding the same thing. Teaching is not the same when you can see and connect with the students in the same room as you, right? It's hard to build that professional rapport. It's hard to help them in the ways that you usually would. But as long as you're trying new things and doing your best, and first and foremost, you're looking after your health and well-being, then as a teacher, I think you're making good progress there as we get accustomed to this new way of learning. If you are interested in more studying tips, or you want to see different maths videos from different topics, check out the videos here. I've got a whole playlist series on different courses there. Make sure to check it out. Hope that helps.